Okay, so most of us are familiar with the story of the plagues in Exodus, right? But today, we're not just retelling it. We're going to look at how the story is told in chapter 9. We're going to break down its narrative structure, piece by piece, to see how the author so masterfully builds this escalating conflict.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the repeating cycle of conflict that really drives the whole story. Then, we'll see how the plagues target Egypt's assets. After that, we'll dive into this crucial theme of distinction, analyze the massive storm that acts as the chapter's climax, and finally, we'll try to unpack this complex idea of Pharaoh's hardened heart.
First up, this cycle of conflict. It's really easy to think of these plagues as just one random disaster after another. But if you look closely, the author lays them out in a super clear, very deliberate pattern that gives the whole narrative its power.
And every single cycle gets kicked off by this one unchanging demand: let my people go. This isn't just a simple request, you see. It's a direct challenge to Pharaoh's power, to his authority, and it's the trigger for everything that's about to unfold.
Okay, so here's the blueprint, the narrative engine for the whole chapter. It's like a little 3-act play that just keeps repeating. First, you get the warning and the demand. Second, Pharaoh refuses, so the plague is delivered. And third, Pharaoh just doubles down, his heart hardens. This pattern, demand, consequence, defiance, repeats over and over, and with each turn, the stakes just get higher and higher.
So, how does this cycle start to ramp up? Well, the first plagues in this chapter, they aren't just random acts of chaos. Nope. They are really precise, almost surgical strikes against the very foundations of Egyptian society, its economy, and the health of its people.
The narrative begins with what it calls a terrible plague on livestock, and that's the backbone of their wealth, their military, everything. Then it gets personal. It moves from animals to people. Festering boils break out on everyone, even Pharaoh's own magicians. The text specifically points out they could not stand before Moses because of them. It's a way of showing their power is completely useless here.
Now here is one of the most powerful storytelling tools the chapter uses, the idea of distinction. While Egypt is being taken apart, the story goes way out of its way to show that the Israelites are completely separate, completely protected. It creates this really stark contrast.
And the story doesn't just hint at this, it spells it out for you. This separation isn't because of geography or just plain luck. No, it's framed as a deliberate, miraculous act. This theme of divine distinction is absolutely central to what the story is trying to say.
And look at how absolute the language is here. It's so black and white. It doesn't say some of the Egyptian livestock died. It says all of it. And for the Israelites, not a single one. The narrative leaves zero room for doubt. 0. That's the number. And get this, Pharaoh's own people confirm it. The text makes a point of saying that Pharaoh actually investigated and found that not even one of the animals of the Israelites had died. So the main antagonist of the story has to confront this undeniable, miraculous fact, and yet it still doesn't change his mind. So that brings us to the plague of hail. And the story itself tells you, this is a massive escalation. This isn't just another turn of the wheel. No, this is presented as the chapter's climax, something way more severe and way more revealing than anything that came before it. So let's think like a storyteller for a second. The story's already hit Egypt's economy and its people's health. Where do you go from there? How do you possibly raise the stakes even higher? Well, the narrative tells us exactly how. This isn't just another plague. This is the full force. And the purpose is stated right there. To be an undeniable, unmistakable demonstration of power. It's to prove that there is no one like me in all the earth. The story is building to a conclusion you just can't argue with. And the description of this storm is just devastating. It's called the worst in the nation's entire history. It hits people, animals, crops, everything. But notice this new element here, because it's a game changer. For the very first time, a warning comes with a way out. Get your people and your animals inside, and they'll live. This adds a whole new layer of choice and responsibility to the story. And this warning creates this fascinating split, not just between Egyptians and Israelites, but among the Egyptians themselves. Some of Pharaoh's own officials, the ones who feared the word of the Lord, they actually listen and they save their households. But others ignore it and they pay the price. The conflict is now becoming internal to Egypt too. And yet, through all of this unprecedented, widespread disaster, that central theme of distinction holds true.
The storm is everywhere in Egypt except for one single divinely protected place, the land of Goshen. The separation is still absolute.
So this devastating storm, it leads to the psychological climax of the entire chapter. Pharaoh, he finally seems to break. But his confession and how fast he reverses it reveals the story's real core theme, the nature of a hardened heart.
And here it is, the moment it seems like the whole conflict has been building towards. Pharaoh completely caves. He says, "I have sinned, the Lord is in the right," and he finally makes the promise, "I will let you go." For just a second, it feels like it's all over.
But Moses, he's not buying it. Not for a second. Even as he agrees to pray for the storm to stop, he predicts that Pharaoh's change of heart isn't real. And this creates this incredible tension, right? Is the confession genuine? Or is he just saying anything to make the pain stop?
And the sequence of events tells you everything you need to know. The confession comes only when he's under extreme pressure. The moment Moses prays and the storm stops, the second the immediate threat is gone, Pharaoh's defiance comes roaring back, and he takes back his promise. And just like that, the text confirms Moses was right all along. Getting relief from the plague doesn't lead to any lasting change. It leads right back to defiance. He and his officials hardened their hearts all over again, completing the final and most dramatic cycle of conflict in the chapter.
So what does the story even mean by a hardened heart? Well, it seems to be this state of just stubborn, unyielding defiance, a total refusal to listen. And what's really fascinating is that the text says this hardening is caused by both Pharaoh himself and by God, which creates this really complex picture of human choice and divine will right at the center of the story.
So, to wrap it all up, the main takeaway is this. Exodus 9 is not just a list of disasters. It's an incredibly well-built story. It uses this repeating three-step cycle: demand, consequence, defiance. And with each loop, it raises the stakes, sharpens that distinction between peoples, and ultimately, it dives deep into the nature of a hardened, unyielding heart.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. When a story is built on a repeating pattern like this, one that gets more and more intense each time, what is it really trying to tell us about the nature of power, the anatomy of defiance, and what it really truly takes for lasting change to ever happen?